is my baby.
I'm Dana Denha.
And I'm Melissa Bondi, and this is Adventures in Parenthood, where we take a ride on the roller coaster that we call parenting.
We talk a lot about the importance of reading to our children, and today is no different. In a time when in-person learning must be put on hold for the greater good, we need to be embracing the written word. I know personally, since the pandemic began, I've been searching for more books to share with my daughter. So for her birthday this year, Melissa, I was like, I need to get books. Like, we need books. She likes to read. I like to read, but a lot of times when a kid picks a book, they sort of like gravitate to picking the same book all the time. And I get sort of tired of it. So I've now become the person that chooses the books at night.
Okay, sure.
So this is actually, I'm going to show you some books and then you can show me a couple that you have. So this one is actually something that I found to be super interesting that she got into. And this is an old book. This is like a book that Scholastic put out a while ago and you can't even find them. They're not even in print anymore. It's a book that just tells you about cats. Like, it's a legit, just learning about the things about cats, their pads, their eyes, their hair color and stuff like that. And Keaton absolutely loves it. So it's funny because when I was a kid, I think like, oh, I wasn't that into educational books, but this educational book is awesome. And the really neat thing about this book, if you can find these books, because they have multiple, so like it's got like these clear pages and then when and I think that's part of the reason
that's kind of neat.
So much. What's one of the books that you've been reading to Bryn?
Well, like you said, some of these books get stale after a while, at least to us, the parents. So I found by doing these that Olivia is one of my favorite characters. By doing these, they have the 5-minute stories within. So it's the same character, but all different, there's, 50 different stories within one book. So I found that's a good outlet, for this, the repetitiveness of reading the same books, is to get a book and make sure it has stories within, which is something that I started probably in the last, I think this was a Christmas gift. Mm-hmm. So like I said, she's one of my favorite characters. If we're picking characters, we're kind of moving out of Disney, away from that. So I'm finding new ones. So that's one of my favorites. And then like the other ones we found were these, it's a series. Mm-hmm. And they cover language arts, social science, science, creative art, and they have different, there's 25 books all within, and these have been super fun. So every night we do a different one, and rhyming are my favorite. Anything that rhymes is my ultimate favorite.
Melissa, it's interesting that you mentioned those 5-minute books, because every time I sort of come across one at a store, I end up buying them, and they do introduce new characters that you haven't seen in a while, or like your kids have never seen before. For instance, I got one about the Peanuts. Before we go talk to our guests, I'd like to talk about a couple more books that I was introduced to in June. And I just think these books are so good. They're by the same authors. It's Jory John and Pete Oswald. And the first book is The Bad Seed. And it's really about a seed that's bad and everyone's sort of scared of him. But in the end, he realizes that like he wants to be a nice person. So he really tries to be a better person, and people start liking him, and it really changes his life. And then they kind of went the opposite and like wrote a follow-up book called The Good Egg. And in The Good Egg, he sort of is a goody two-shoes, and he judges people for being bad. And he leaves his carton, and when he comes back and realizes that maybe the other eggs in the carton weren't so bad. Maybe they were just having fun, or maybe it's okay to be a little bad sometimes, So if you're looking for something, we're actually gonna introduce our next guest, who is an author herself, and her name is Rosemary Schimmel. And she wrote a book, The Way to Be from A to Z. Welcome to the show, Rosemary.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. So Rosemary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You have a background that sort of led you to being an author, but you were a teacher, right?
I sure was. Yep. My field is special education. And so I taught for about 18, 19 years before I retired, pretty much at all levels. I started when I went back to work. I stayed home with my kids for about 13 years. So when I went back part-time. And then I was lucky enough to get hired in the Plymouth Canton School District, and that's where I lived out the remainder of my teaching career at both the middle school level and the high school level. I worked with a fantastic team of teachers at the middle school level, co-taught with language arts. In fact, you had my colleague on the show not too long ago, Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we had a wonderful teaching experience, so that was wonderful. And then I left the middle school. I was offered a position as a teacher consultant at the high school level, and that was a whole new experience, and I enjoyed every minute of it until it was time to say goodbye and live the life of a retiree.
Yeah.
But as a retiree, you're sort of living out maybe dreams that you had your whole life that you couldn't do when you were working.
Yes, and busier than what I was teaching, I want to say. Promoting your book is a lot of work. It's
Sure.
fun, but it's definitely a lot of work. So right after I retired, I hit the road with the book, and really never felt like a retired person. Although with the COVID in the last few months, definitely have taken a step back. A lot of the things that I had scheduled for March got canceled. A lot of the things that were scheduled for over the summer, of course, got canceled. So it's been a bit of a vacation from book promoting. So this is ideal because it's perfect timing to kind of gear up and get back into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize this until you start talking more to people that write books, that in this day and age, really it's on the shoulder of the author to get their book out there and get sold.
Right.
Oh, definitely, especially when you're self-published or you're with a small press. So my first printing was, I just had the book printed and everything was on me. I didn't have a website or anything. So it did very well, fortunately, and I needed a second printing. And that's when I looked around for a small press to help me with the marketing, and I ended up with Mascot Books. So.
Okay. So tell us how you came about with the concept of it.
Okay.
So
my grandkids, I have 6 grandchildren, and it was very much just looking at them every day, and just wanting to have a way to make sure they grow up to be very strong people with good character and, ready to go out there and conquer the world. Yeah. So, and then, I started thinking in terms of, I wanted it to be a book that would be appreciated by all ages. And I knew I wanted it to be a picture book. I knew the illustrations would be very, very important. But I wanted it to be more of an advanced picture book. The vocabulary was important to me. I didn't want every word to be easy. I wanted that to be a good reason to get the book, to learn new vocabulary. So I just started, ABCs. What's a word with A that is a good strong word for kids, and with B and C and so on. So I just, whenever something popped in my head, I jotted it down, and then I had to get the poetic piece of it. So it took a while, but once it fell into place, it really rolled.
Okay.
It's really a beautifully written book. I very much enjoyed reading it. It sort of reminds me of like, Where the Sidewalk Ends or something like that, where it's like one of those books that sort of resonates with you. And like, it has such good messages too. But, I want to go back to that part where you talk about your grandkids a little, because I was like, you sent me some photos of you and your grandkids and stuff. And I was sort of thinking about this and like, how amazing is it to have a grandmother after she's retired start this whole new career, and it's like this creative, passionate career, and to show kids out there how you can be anything at any age. And that's just amazing to me, and I give you a lot of kudos for that, because a lot of people could just go, I'm retired, I'm gonna hang out at home, take care of my garden, do things like that, but you were like, you really wanted to do this, and you did it, and you're doing it now.
Yep It's very important to me. I have to stay busy. Definitely have to stay busy.
Sure.
So when we talk about, because this was one of the things that really stuck out to me about this book was the vocabulary, because you're reading it and it's really, to me, it's a book for many ages,
Yes.
I can read it to my 4-year-old and she understands what's going on with the book, but it also has those vocabulary words where like, she doesn't know what that word means, but you explain it in such a way that it really resonates with the kids and they understand it. And maybe down the road, they'll be using that word again.
I hope so. Good. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. Yeah.
Did you have collaboration? I know this seems like a solo project, your project, but when it did come to the words and something popped in your mind, did you talk with someone or say, does this make sense? Is this so the letter B, and you had, did you have multiple words that you were like, this should be, you're on the, it should be this
Right.
one or this
Yeah,
one?
I had a prototype made up. I went to a bookmaking site on the internet and actually had a book made. It was a spiral bound book. Obviously the illustrations were, much less mature, or things I couldn't use anyway because it was a copyrighted template. But I took that then to my colleagues at work and said, hey, I need you to tell me what you think. I want, a truthful opinion from you in every way. And their feedback was fabulous. For the most part, they all really, really liked it, but there was some tweaking that needed to be done. And with their input, I did a lot of tweaking. And then when I knew I was ready, I had to find the illustrators. So that was another big step.
Okay.
How did you come up with this idea for, the sort of doing poems for each page? Because I feel like in a way that's more difficult than writing a story that flows from page to page, because it does flow from page to page, but it's also they each have their own unique tale they're telling.
Yes, thank you. That's just the way I write. I guess I'm a poet at heart. That's, to me, I think to write a story, to write fiction would be much, much more difficult. So kudos to the authors that can do that for children, because that's tough. So.
Was there a letter in particular that maybe stumped you, or you were really enjoyed, or like this is
why? I will say why. I will say that why was one. When I got to that letter, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for why? And all I could think of was that kids are so honest, and kids are so, for the most part, they're like little sponges, and they're just willing to, soak everything up and take chances. So I thought, well, you want to stay young, you want to stay youthful, you want to continue to have that ability to, accept people for who they are and accept things for what it is, and just, not grow old and tired and bad.
We're going to take a short break from our chat to hear some words of wisdom from our local sensei as we kick it with Keith Hafner.
Hey everybody, Keith Hafner here from Keith Hafner's Karate, downtown Ann Arbor. I'm here to talk about the 10 commandments of parenting. Commandment number 2 is this: inconsistently applied discipline teaches rebellious behavior. Now, a long time ago when I was formulating these concepts, here's what I used to think. I used to think that inconsistently applied discipline allows rebellious behavior in your family. But I think it's more direct than that. I think that when you are not consistent with the things that you have said to your children, the types of actions and consequences that you have put in front of them, when you do not administer those things consistently, you are teaching them to misbehave. You are teaching them that you don't mean what you say. And this is bad for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're not going to feel like they necessarily have to follow the things that you have told them to do. But I think it also causes an environment where they don't trust what you say. And I think that has all kinds of negative consequences, because kids need to feel safe. They need to feel that whoever is in charge knows what they're doing, that whoever is driving the car is skillful and understands how the car works. Be very consistent when you establish rules for your kids, when you tell them what the consequences will be of different kinds of behaviors. Make absolutely sure that you follow through, or else you are teaching them rebellious behavior. See you next time.
All right, we're back with Rosemary Schimmel with her book, The Way to Be, From A to Z. Welcome back, Rosemary.
Thank you. Thank you.
So RB is your author name, so people know that.
Yes. My name is Rosemary. I don't know why I chose to use initials. It's just, I just did.
It works, when you're looking at the cover of a book.
Right.
It only works.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd like to first of all, I'd like to show everyone the book. It's
Okay,
so
thank
cute.
you.
It actually like it's sort of you mentioned like the illustration and stuff, and it really reminds me of like a throwback to, you know, like maybe like the 70s, 80s, like this sort of owl character. I love it. I love
Okay, well, that makes sense. Good.
it. Can you tell me about the owl and how he sort of came about? Because he's the person that brings you through the whole book.
Sure. Well, I think because, like I said, my template, the illustrations were little owls. And just going into that, I thought, well, that's perfect because it's kind of like the wise old owl narrator who's more or less telling the story. So when I did find my illustrators and worked with them, I knew I wanted the owl to continue to be the narrator. And I knew I wanted a tree, and I knew I wanted him sitting on the tree. And other than that, I kind of gave the illustrators free rein to use the words and to come up with the characters that they came up with. But yeah, the wise old owl narrator was there from the beginning, and I kept him on.
Super cute. Are there other supporting characters in there with him, or I know he takes you through?
Right, yeah, well, let's see. The butterflies, the little squirrels, the rabbit, the turtle. They're kind of, they're throughout the book. Every page doesn't have its own characters. The characters come and go.
They come and go. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us how Amazon has been, because this book is on Amazon, and I read the reviews and they were awesome. So congratulations. You must be so proud. That's a big deal to have.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, to have that many reviews and such positive on Amazon is a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pleased with all of that. But yeah, getting on Amazon was a big part of my going with Mascot Books. I know that you can do it yourself, but I don't know how to do that. So that's why when I knew that I was needing more books printed, I wanted to go with a company that could help me with the marketing. So that was huge. Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
Because it's also on Barnes and Nobles and Books A Million. So
you've done some book signings, readings at Barnes and Noble and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And that was also through Mascot Books getting those. So that was good.
Okay. So
this is actually an award-winning book too. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Best Indie Book Award I got. So that goes to indie authors. So that was huge. I was very excited when I got that. And then it also, I think the one you held up also has the seal. It's a Mom's Choice Gold Award winner. So that's like their top level. So both of those were very exciting. It just means that, it's a good book. It's a good book for kids of all ages. It definitely has merit. I like it particularly because I think it's timeless. It's not a message that's going to go away. It's a message that we're going to need to continue to put out there for our kids. So all the way around, I just think I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of my book.
Why don't you mentioned the messages, and I'd like to talk about, so I sort of picked a couple messages I liked in the book, and then I wonder what is maybe your top message that you like from the book, Rosemary? What is one of the ones that really sticks out to you? Because there was a couple that really stuck out to me as I related as a child, but also there was one, and I'd have to look it up on my sheet here, that I was like, this pertains to now so much.
You had be original, be a rebel, and be loud. Those, Dana, those were your big ones.
So that be a rebel one to me is stand up. Be the person that stands up for people. And to me today in 2020, with everything that's going on with the race, people's races and feeling included in things, I feel like being a rebel is one of those number one ones where you should really feel that way.
Good. That is one of my favorites too. And when you said that you would like me to maybe read a few of the pages, that's one that I did mark because I really appreciate that one too. And I want kids to recognize that there are times when they do have to stand up because something that they're hearing or seeing, or they're just feeling that something isn't right and they need to say something about it.
Why don't you take a second and read that one to us?
Okay, let me get to it. I kind of marked these. Oh, it's right here. Be a rebel. Oh dear, do I really want that? Well, let me explain what I mean. Stand up and be strong when you think something is wrong. Don't just go along. Be a rebel. Speak out and be heard when words being said don't make any sense to your heart or your head. Protect and defend what you must. no matter that others would not. Be a rebel. And then each of my pages has a question to, start a dialogue with the kids. So this one, of course, says, what do you do when you know you are right and others are wrong? So that's a good way for a classroom teacher to talk with the class about standing up perhaps to bullies or, something else that they're seeing wrong in the classroom or the school environment, and a good way for parents to start discussions with kids.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It sort of reminds me of the situation I was in where my daughter wears glasses and she's young. She started wearing them when she was 3. And we were at a birthday party and there was a kid that just was really making fun of her for wearing glasses, which really bothered me. And as she's my only daughter, I didn't know what to do as a parent because I'm like, this is a kid. I don't want to go tit for tat with a kid. But it ended up working out that the other kids that she was friends with stuck up for her and they told them to stop. And I was like, that's amazing. That's the way you should be your whole life. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I think I questioned myself and they didn't, they went right into it,
Good.
Right. As a parent, right. As a first time situation, I had a couple of mama bear incidences myself where I was like, I got to breathe. I don't know how to handle this, but I know I don't want to handle it like I would an adult. So I have to think before I do, so it's kind of one of those. And this book and these lessons can teach that. Like you said, we were talking about the ages and I had asked, is it for a 4-year-old and an 11-year-old? And you said it could.
And I definitely think so, because you read it to the younger ones and the pictures are so spot on that they can look at they do what's called a picture walk. Just have them look at the illustrations and tell you what they think is going on. And then you say, yep, that's exactly what this word means. And older kids reading it themselves, I think they get a lot out of it.
We'll be back in exactly 60 seconds with more from Rosemary. We're here with Michigan-based author Rosemary Schimmel. Welcome back to the show, Rosemary.
Thank you so much.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about working with, I believe it's True, the PR company you've worked with, because they help people out as well. They're sort of helping people take another step in their lives.
Exactly. Yep. My son works for Therapeutic Rehabilitative Services, and they work with clients who have suffered brain trauma, mostly due to accidents. And they do have a media arm. And so I went to them and I worked with Christy, wonderful, wonderful woman there, and 2 of the clients who are interested in using their graphic art abilities to help me with this book. They've never done anything quite like this before, but they do work for the community to help promote their businesses. So it was a wonderful, wonderful journey working with Joe and Quincy. We were able to, collaborate together. I could see, like I had said earlier, I kind of gave them free rein, except I knew I wanted to use the owl. So they would do their thing, and then I would go in and we'd sit down and I'd look at what they have and, say, yep, this works for me, or no, this is not quite what I had in mind for this particular word or this page. And they go back to the drawing board and, it took a while because they had other things that they needed to do and other things going on in their lives that they needed to put their energies into. So it wasn't a quick process, but it was well worth it. It was a wonderful, wonderful journey working with them.
Yeah, I liked being able to read about them in the back of the book too. I thought that was a nice added touch for the parents reading, really.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I think it's important very much.
So Rosemary, when did this book first come out? When did you publish this book
It
originally?
first came out in August of 2018. That's when the first delivery of the books that I had printed came to me. And then those sold very, very well. Just a lot of word of mouth, a lot of networking with friends and family. And it became very clear to me that I was going to need to have more books printed. And as I said earlier, that's when I decided to work with a self-publishing company. And so in 2019, the next batch of books came out. So.
Okay. So Rosemary, is your book in the local schools here in the metro area? Where?
It is in some of the local school libraries in Plymouth Canton. My grandchildren, of course, attend the Plymouth Canton schools, and I was an employee of them. So it is in some of the school libraries, but it is not being utilized as a district resource. And I would love to see that happen, because I do believe that it's a wonderful book for character development. And I think that it would be a wonderful classroom resource and part of a curriculum for a district.
Okay. Any age?
Thank you for asking.
Any age in particular that you would like to
I
see?
have done readings in the school. I have found that the 3rd and 4th grade level, very independent with the book and very able to appreciate it and discuss it. They don't feel that it's too young for them. The littler kids really need a lot of guidance. And as you go a little bit older, then you're going to really use it as a resource for talking about how to use these character traits in your life. I did work with high school level kids with IEPs in their transition programs to talk about how many of these character traits are things you need in the workforce and you'll need in your future endeavors.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, since we're about 2 years out from you publishing the book for the first time,
Right.
are you working on any more books? Like, what's next for you?
I do have ideas. There will be a Way to Be from A to Z 2, but there's also going to be I have in my mind kind of like not the way to be, but the way not to be. Like, don't do these things or don't be this kind of a person. That's in the works. But I also have some things that are kind of in my archives that I've been pulling out over the summer, having, the time to do that at home, that I still feel have some real importance to them. So I kind of want to dust those off and see what I can do with those.
Okay.
Well, if you wanted to add anything else, we're just about out of time, Rosemary.
No, I just thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I am, kind of getting back on the horse and will be promoting my book full time again.
If you have an idea for a parenting show topic or guest, talk to us on Twitter and Facebook at #CTN Ann Arbor.
For more on our programming and services here at CTN, you can visit us at a2gov.org/CTN. And you can visit youtube.com, CTN Ann Arbor, to watch our full lineup, and remember to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Adventures in Parenting.